What is up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel at Nick Reads Books. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to be giving you my spoiler-free / spoiler review of Malice by John Gwynne. Malice is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series, which is a total of 4 books, making up Malice, Valor, Ruin, and Wrath. And I'm currently participating in a read-along with Brothers Gwynne, Rekindled Reader, and Ryan Tries to Read. So with that being said, let me break down my ratings and feelings about the book. So the overall rating that I've given Malice is an 8.62 out of 10. For emotional impact, I gave it an 8.8. For characters, I gave it an 8.5. For plot, I gave it an 8.6. For prose, I gave it an 8.7. I think that Malice is an absolutely amazing first book to a series and really sets up the characters and themes going forward. John Gwynne takes the first half of this book to really introduce you to our main cast of characters, get you introduced to all the different POVs before the book really picks up in the second half, and it is just non-stop action. You can't put the book down, I feel like, after roughly halfway. One thing in particular that I think John Gwynne does really well in his books is the battle or the fight sequences. In this book, I was surprised by the sheer amount of battles that we experience and are shown, and just how large scale they are, or how much implications they have for, I assume, the rest of the series. I might have to say that John Gwynne does the best battle scenes that I've read in fantasy so far. I haven't read an absolutely large amount of fantasy books, I would say, compared to some other people, but in the books that I have read, his especially show you, I think, the atrocities and the real grit and horrors of hand-to-hand combat, especially back in this medieval sort of setting with swords and shields, spears. It's really something. Another thing about this book and this world that really stood out to me is just how grim the sort of the story or the arcs for the characters are. I would definitely classify Malice as a grimdark book, even in comparison to something, let's say, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, which is, I feel like, seen as almost the pinnacle of grimdark, or at least that's what you hear on booktube. That book series had a lot of humor, or the characters were funny, especially Sandan Glockner, and just him going through this world as a cripple, but finding humor in dark places. But compared to that, I feel like Malice is just constant depression for our entire cast. And the last real big thing that I enjoyed about Malice was the animal companion trope or aspect that is prevalent throughout the book, especially how it includes a number of characters, or I think we'll see more of a particular character fall into that animal companion trope, but especially one of our main characters, Corbin, and his animal companion arc throughout the book is really amazing, and really something that I really enjoyed. My God, could I say really anymore? So if it wasn't evident, I'm really excited to get into the second book, Valor, in August, and to continue following along with the read-along. This is the first read-along that I've been involved with, and it's interesting to see different people's views on the books and how they've experienced them, and whether I agree with them or disagree with them. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to jump into the spoiler section of the book. So I'll give you a couple of seconds just to be warned. If you haven't read the book, click off now, but otherwise I'm going to jump into the characters. So in Malice, we get a lot of POV characters, I think about 6 in this book, which for the size of the book I think is quite a lot. And all these characters are spread out across the Banished Lands, and obviously towards the end of the book some of our more main characters, I feel like, come together and all converge into one location So all our POV characters are Everness, Corbin, Veritas, Cohen, I think it's said in the audiobook, Corbin's sister, Castell, Camlin, and Ventos. Everness, Cohen, and Camlin sort of satellite characters around Corbin. They show Corbin's arc through a different perspective, a different view, and I think that is really well done. Instead of just limiting our POV to Corbin, I think it really elaborates on the story and gives us, as I said, different perspectives. I really liked the different characters throughout Malice, all of them. They each had a different feel to them. You knew exactly whose head you were in once you obviously started that chapter and you were with them. And by the end of this book, I feel like you really start to care for our characters, their well-being. Obviously Corbin especially, I feel like he's just been down in the dirt. He's been bullied the entire book, and he's bullied right up until the end, and then he's probably going to be bullied in the next one. But you really want him to succeed, and I can't do a spoiler section without mentioning the fact that our man Castell is killed at the end of the book. That is not something I was expecting at all. Jael, what an absolute dickhead. There's a recurring theme, I feel like, throughout the book where our characters are just being bullied for no apparent reason. But yeah, Castell being stabbed obviously by Jael at the end and dying, for some reason I felt anger towards Veritas, I think. Veritas is very loyal to Nether, who's clearly our bad guy. That man cannot be trusted, and it's hard to watch a character that I really like in Veritas following someone who has very questionable morals and is doing some very questionable things. Just to focus on Corbin for a second, we follow Corbin throughout the book as he matures quite a lot, even though it's only, I believe the book goes over about a year, maybe 2, a year and a half. But in that time, Corbin really grows up from obviously at the beginning of the book, a coward, into someone who learns to train with the sword. He learns with Gar. He gets his first horse. He starts to look after Storm. He really matures. His relationship with Storm and Shield, his horse, is a real highlight of the book for me. I can't wait to see how that is elaborated on, and I will be absolutely devastated if anything happens to Storm or Shield before the end of the books. No doubt John Gwynne will do that to me, because this is one of the most grimdark series I feel like I've started. One scene in particular was really tugging on the heartstrings was when Corbin tries to abandon Storm in the Baglan after he attacks Rafe, or she attacks Rafe, sorry, protecting him. That whole scene and the fact that she kept trying to run after him and follow him, and it was a really sad moment. But I am glad that they were reunited before the end of the book. I don't know if I would have been able to have gone a book without seeing Storm. And Corbin and the gang are just copping L's left, right, and centre. We have Thanon, Corbin's dad, die at the end of the book, along with Budai, his hound. Cohen is missing, presumed dead. I don't think she's dead, but it'll be interesting to see how she comes back into the book. And Corbin is sailing away on a boat with Gar, his mum, and a couple of his friends. Who knows where they'll go. So now moving on to Veritas, the last character that I wanted to touch on. As I stated, I really like Veritas as a character. I think he's a really likable character. He's trying to find his place in the world, to differentiate himself from his brothers, it feels like, and earn his father's praise is simply what he was after. He doesn't get that in this book. He actually gets, I feel like, the opposite. But I just hate to see him at the moment. I feel like siding with Nether. This, I don't know, obviously we get a different perspective on Nether, and we are privy to, I believe, some information that Veritas might not be. But this man is dodgy. This man couldn't be any more sus if he tried. There's this prophecy that comes out, said there's going to be a chosen one, and then within the next 2-3 weeks, Nether's standing up there like, me, I am the chosen one. Like, I guess Veritas is a very loyal man, but it was just infuriating. Now to talk quickly about the plot. A lot happens in this book and a lot of time passes. Like I said, it feels like there's about 2 years that elapse over the course of the book. Big chunks of time go in between, and there's a lot of stuff going on. We got all the kings coming together for King Aquilius, Nether's dad, them separating. Obviously Aquilius gets killed. Verudus chases after the King Mandros that he thinks killed Aquilius. Nether travels to Arden to go see King Brennan. Brennan has gone to see Owain. His wife gets killed, they come back. So a lot of, like I said, a lot of battles happen, a lot of large scale battles. Arden, or King Brennan's castle Duncarrig, is besieged by Owain. Obviously the biggest plot twist I feel like for this book is Castell's downfall towards the end. I kind of expected that some of our characters, or some of the characters that we introduced to, would not make it to the end of the series. I did not expect Castell to drop within the first book. He was someone who I really enjoyed reading. He was just struggling with making friends. He thought like everyone was conspiring against him, and when he eventually finds some friends in the Gadre, that is all shattered, and it'll be interesting to see how his friend Macquill, who knows, how his friend deals with that, because we don't get to see him before the end of the book. One of the plot elements in particular that I really enjoyed was Corbin finding the trapped pregnant Wolven in the Bagland, and then freeing her. I thought it would play out a little differently than it did. I thought maybe later in this book or later in the series there would be a time where that Wolven or a pack of Wolvens would come to his aid and help him, either against, Rafe or some evil people within, or Evnus within Duncarrig. But I was especially pleased actually with how John Gwynne changed that up, and about halfway through the book we get the hunt and them coming across the Wolven and Corbin saving Storm as a puppy. The whole Wolven, Storm, Corbin plotline had a lot of Chekhov's gun, I feel like, about it. As soon as I read that he was saving the Wolven, you knew that this was going to play a massive role later in the book. While I really liked Verudus, I think one of the plot points where he kills King Mandros is, I really kind of disliked that for Verudus as a character. He feels like he has a lot of potential. The man jumped through a wall of fire to save Nether, ended up getting beat up by a giant, but nevertheless he's a very loyal man, and obviously he kills King Mandros because he thinks he's being loyal, but it just, obviously that doesn't go over well with the other kings of the Banished Lands. And with the plot in this book especially, it just felt like our antagonists were getting away with murder. Literally murder. We had King Aquilius die, King Brennan, Tull, Castell, how could I forget? Just a lot of great characters killed in this book. So just to quickly touch on a bit of a world building, there's lots of talk about these sacred treasures, the 7 sacred treasures that the giants made from the Star Stone, especially the weapons. And one of the plot arcs, obviously, like Verudus's and Castell's towards the end there, they go to try and get back the massive axe that is held by King Romar. That's another one who died, King Romar. And obviously that is taken by Nether's mates, Alcyon, the giant. And I really wanted these sacred treasures, and I feel like they will. I really want them in the later books to play a larger role. Maybe some of our characters get these weapons. I would love to see them get the weapons, and then have increased power, special powers, a bit of magical element to it. But there you go. There is my spoiler-free / spoiler discussion on the first book of the Faithful and the Fallen series, Malice by John Gwynne. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'm currently recording a video for Red Rising, the first book in the Red Rising trilogy. I really enjoyed it, and stay tuned for that video. But yeah, see ya.